So with that said, I'm going to go into the break. After the intermission, I am going to talk about the album Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden, and of course a band that many of you may not have heard about called Dragon's Claw, and their new album Moving Target. All of that coming up after the break on the Metal Command podcast. Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Since 1998, I have hosted this show, which started off as a radio show and, of course, is now in the world of podcasting. That's right. I've hosted this show since 1998, and I've had the privilege of speaking to so many great bands and artists over the years, and I appreciate the following and support I am receiving from all of you. The show has definitely grown a lot over the last year, and I would love your support. If you have not yet done it, please hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and follow the show on any other form of social media. Now, back to the second half of this episode. Welcome back to the Metal Command podcast here after the break. Let's get into the second half of this show. I'm going to start off the second half of the show by doing a little retro review. And in fact, I'm going to be doing a lot of these. Many people out there have emailed me asking me about specific albums that may have come out 5 years ago, 25 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever. I get daily emails asking me what I think about some of the classic albums in the heavy metal genre. And since I get these questions, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about these records on the show, because I'll be answering emails for the next week if I answered everybody with my detailed opinion about each album. So today's retro review album, and I'm going to be doing more of these on the program, is going to be Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden. That's right. Classic Iron Maiden album. Definitely one I would recommend to newer fans of the band. And the reason I'm bringing this album as a retro review on first is because this is the most recent one people have asked me about. Now, I don't know why that is, but since it's out there and those emails were coming to me, let's start off with this record, which I love immensely. I'll give you my own personal story about it and give you a few fun facts about the record as well. So this is my US picture disc version of the album, and I'm going to get into what's special about this particular pressing of the album, because this is an original issue, picture disc issue, for the United States and a few other countries outside of the UK. But Peace of Mind is a very interesting album because for me, when I was getting into Iron Maiden, the first two albums I ended up getting were Power Slave and Peace of Mind. Two very good albums to start off with. Power Slave was the first one I listened to. And then the very next day after buying Power Slave, I found Peace of Mind on CD somewhere. Some music store had it. I don't remember. This was back in the early 90s, right around the time Bruce had left the band, is when I subsequently ended up getting into Iron Maiden after that. And so this would have been about 1993, late 93. Yeah, it would have been late 90s. It would have been late 1993 when I really started getting into Iron Maiden. So I ended up getting Peace of Mind and Power Slave, both really, really great records. Now, for those of you that have ever asked me what are my favorite Iron Maiden albums, I could tell you Number of the Beast is my favorite, probably followed by Killers, and then I probably would have, it's tough. Somewhere in Time, I think, would be number 3 for me. But it's pretty close because Peace of Mind and Power Slave would definitely be in the conversation as well. But this is a great record. Now, this is the follow-up to Number of the Beast, where I think the band and the songwriting they had collectively became a little bit more refined. It's also the first album that Nickel McBrain played on. So there are definitely some significant changes in the band, as far as the rhythm section is concerned. You had a new drummer. Bruce Dickinson, for those of you that may or may not remember or know this, he really couldn't take any credit for any kind of songwriting he might have done on Number of the Beast because he was still, under a contract, but he was able to do so on this record. and he definitely did make his mark from a songwriting perspective. But this is a more refined record, not as crazy or aggressive as, say, Number of the Beast or Killers were both, but definitely a very, very good album. And interestingly enough, one of the B-sides on this album received a lot of airplay in the States. So you had a couple B-sides. I'll show you the singles. We have the Trooper single right here, as you may see. And it had a single called Cross-Eyed Mary. Now, why am I bringing that up? Why is Cross-Eyed Mary, a Jethro Tull cover, so significant? Because it received a lot of U.S. radio airplay after the album had come out. I'm going to assume this single probably made it to a radio station somewhere, and radio stations started playing this cover. And the record label at the time really wanted to press subsequent versions of Peace of Mind with that song at the end of the album. They wanted to put it on the album itself. The band really didn't want to do that because they felt that it ripped off fans who had already gone out and bought the album. So it never happened. However, it did happen in a very limited fashion, because what they did was, in the United States and a few countries outside of the UK, they put out a picture disc version of the album. This is an original pressing of that. And on the picture disc itself, at the very end, you have Cross-Eyed Mary as the very last song. It's right there. They put it on the album in a very limited fashion. So they kind of put it on the album, but they really didn't. They put it on the special picture disc edition, which was found outside of the UK and was obviously something that came out here in the US. Apparently, people love this picture disc version of the album. When vinyl was kind of going out and CDs were the thing, in the late 90s, you're going to laugh at how much I paid for this. I paid $20 for this picture disc. It was still sealed when I ended up getting it. Obviously, it's probably worth a lot more to a collector, but definitely Cross-Eyed Mary was a pretty big song for the band here in the States, and it was a cover. A lot of people forget about that, but it was definitely something that happened. They also had another single, and this is another original EMI pressing from Germany, just like the Trooper single was, Flight of Icarus. You had the Montrose cover, I've Got the Fire. If you remember, they had a live version of that on that came out as a B-side for the first self-titled Iron Maiden album. So those are the two singles. Those are the B-sides. Now, as far as the album goes itself, what do I think about it? Well, it's interesting because I had not listened to this album for quite some time. And the picture disc again, I just think it's cool. The front of this is really cool. But I had not listened to this album in quite some time. So I had obviously bought the vinyl reissues of the album, of all the Iron Maiden albums that came out. I think it was like 2015 or 16 or 17. I don't remember when that was. 2018, I think. And it's an incredible record. It's a little bit different than a lot of the records they've put out. So, like Where Eagles Dare, I think there's a lot of underrated songs on this too, by the way, that really don't get into the set list that much, but I think some of them should. So Where Eagles Dare, the first song, I think is awesome. I remember them doing, I know they've done it on a recent live album, and it has made its way into the set more recently. And I do remember hearing the live version that they played on the Real Dead One live album that came out back in 1993. But Where Eagles Dare, I think, is one of the more underrated Iron Maiden songs that exists. I mean, they just, again, for me, definitely an absolutely incredible track. It gets overlooked a lot. I know it's a little longer than most of the songs on the album, aside from Revelations, but Where Eagles Dare is an absolutely incredible song, and I think it's probably, for me, and this is a personal preference, the most underrated song on the album. And then you have the song Revelations. Absolutely incredible song. It's been in the set several times over the years. It's on the album Live After Death. You see Bruce Dickinson going on stage, singing it, and he's got a guitar, strapped to him as well. Revelations is incredible. Definitely one of the best songs in the band's catalog. Now you have Flight of Icarus. Now, interestingly enough, Flight of Icarus was really the first song that I really fell in love with on the album. I loved the chorus. Obviously, I showed you the single. The chorus of that song really is what caught me and really drew me into the record. First couple tracks I thought were really good, but the catchiness of the Flight of Icarus song itself was really, really great. And it's a song they've done quite a bit over the years. Die With Your Boots On. Very highly underrated track. Not one that they really play a whole lot. I don't know if they've played it that much recently, but I do know that on the Live After Death, they did play that song. I believe they played it if you have the Live at the NEC, Maiden England. I know it's on that live album, I believe. And it's a song that's made its way into the set here and there over the years. But I think that is a great track. One that I think it would be nice if they played it a little bit more. I think it deserves a little bit more recognition for what it is. And it's definitely like when most of my friends talk about this album, they point to that track in the last song in the album, To Tame a Land, as being like what they think are the most underrated tracks. For me, it's Where Eagles Dare, but Die With Your Boots On is definitely a great song. You have The Trooper. Again, I mean, this is a classic. They play this probably all the time. I mean, it's in almost every set the band plays. And it's an incredible track. Bruce has the big British flag that he runs across stage with. And I've always loved it. The artwork on the single, I think, is absolutely incredible. I have that t-shirt actually somewhere. I actually have a coffee mug with it, and I have a hat with it. So definitely, it's one of my favorite Eddies. And I'm actually going to be doing a show on my top 10 Iron Maiden Eddies. That's going to be one that's going to be a lot of fun to do. But definitely a great song. Now we get into the second half of the album, essentially. And this is where things get a little bit interesting. This is where you have songs that, most people don't talk about. So we get into the song Still Life. I actually like this song quite a bit, and they did play it live a few times in the past. I know it's on the Maiden England live album. It made it onto a live single as well, and I thought it was an interesting song to throw into the set list, but it's definitely not one people typically talk about. But I think it's actually one of the stronger songs on the album. We go down to Quest for Fire. And again, I'm going to say Quest for Fire and Sun and Steel, for me, are the two weakest songs on the album. Quest for Fire is cool. I like the chorus. I think it's catchy. But I would say that and Sun and Steel are probably the two weakest tracks on this record. Not very many people talk about these songs. If you ask most people that like this album, they will probably point at Sun and Steel and Quest for Fire as being two of the weaker tracks. Not always, but most people that I know typically will say that when you bring up the Peace of Mind album. And then, of course, the last song, the song that most of my friends claim in their minds is the most underrated track on the album, To Tame a Land. And I actually think that track is very good. I mean, there's even a really great cover that Dream Theater did of this song that is absolutely incredible. I don't remember what... I'd like to say... I don't remember which album had it now, but in the box set, it might be Black Clouds and Silver Linings. I could be wrong. One of the albums that I have, if you have the box set version of it, there is a disc where they do covers, and one of them is To Tame a Land by Iron Maiden. And it actually, Dream Theater sounds really good doing it. James LaBrie really pulled the song off really well. I think they were live tracks too, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember now because I only listened to it once. But To Tame a Land is what many fans that I know claim is probably one of the most underrated Iron Maiden songs of all time. And then, of course, at the end of this, you have the Jethro Tull cover that is on the picture disc version of the album. And again, it received a lot of radio play for a lot of people, for the band here in the United States. So a lot of people don't remember that. If you're outside of the USA, you may not know that. But generally speaking, I would definitely say that it's one of the better B-sides the band has ever put out. So where do I rank Peace of Mind into the Iron Maiden catalog? And that's a good question. I mean, for me personally, prime Iron Maiden, and this is my personal preference. Most people that I know, the prime years for Iron Maiden are Number of the Beast through Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. That's probably where most fans probably have like the best run of albums for them. For me personally, prime Iron Maiden starts with the first album, because I love the first two Paul Di'Anno albums, all the way through Seventh Son. And after that, they have albums that are pretty solid, pretty good. They've had some great songs, but the first album through Seventh Son is, for me, it's prime Iron Maiden. Now, I gave you my top 3 Iron Maiden albums. If I were to kind of right now go through and rank them, it would be Number of the Beast, number 1. Number 2 would be Killers. Number 3 would be Somewhere in Time. Number 4 would be Power Slave. And I would have Peace of Mind right at number 5. That's where I would have that record. And then, it would probably go Seventh Son after that, and then the self-titled album after that. So Peace of Mind's in the top 5. It's still an incredible album. There are some instances where I listen to some of these songs on Live After Death, for example, like Flight of Icarus. I like the live version of Revelations probably a little bit better than the studio one. Just my own personal preference. But generally speaking, it's definitely a top 5 album in the band's category. So if you are new to Iron Maiden, if you're looking to explore their music, this should probably be one of the first 5 albums that you buy from the band, because I think it's incredible. So I'm interested to hear what all of you think. What do you think of Peace of Mind? Is it your favorite album? Where do you have it ranked? Where would you put this in the Iron Maiden catalog? I mean, for me, it's number 5. It's definitely top 5. It's a great record. Going back and listening to it again was really such a joy and a pleasure to just listen to it all the way through today and really get a chance to really reminisce about how much I loved this album, especially when I first heard it. And that's where I sit. That is your retro review for this episode. And I have a whole bunch of retro reviews planned, so don't worry. Lots of cool stuff coming down the road. But where does it rank for you in the Iron Maiden catalog and the discography? And what are some of your favorite songs on it? Leave a comment. I would love to know that. Hey, it's Tony here from the Metal Command Show. I want to thank you for watching this portion of the program. Since 1998, I have hosted the show, which started off as a radio program and is now into the podcast format. So I want to thank you for watching and or listening. And if you want to support the program, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post any content. A lot of you have been supporting the show and really, really helping this show grow, and I cannot do it without all of you. So with that said, thanks for watching. Stay metal.